This is my 5th grade class. In our social studies period, we're studying a unit on American pioneer life. To the children, these songs and dances represent one phase of the culmination of their activities on this unit. I'm Mrs. Carlton, their teacher. To me, the most important outcome of these activities is the growth and development of the children themselves. Guiding and nurturing this growth is my most important job. It means a constant awareness of each child as an individual in terms of his abilities, his problems, his needs. For example, there's Randy. Randy has particular difficulty in reading. I watched Randy and soon realized that he needed help, but first I had to find out a little more about him. I studied Randy's cumulative record. Perhaps the comments there by other teachers might give me a clue as to how I might help him. Through the grades, the picture was similar. Randy was a well-liked member of his group and an attentive student, but a distinctly slow reader. This has affected his schoolwork in several areas. I visited Randy's mother. In the course of the conversation, I found that Randy's parents were concerned about his reading. I also found that Randy was quite skilled with his hands and spent a great deal of time making models. He did some reading at home in connection with his interest in model building, but his willingness to read did not carry over to his schoolwork. I felt I could capitalize on this interest. Such a nice visit with your mother yesterday, Randy.
Yeah, she told me.
She showed me the model ship you've made, and some of the other models, too. Where do you get the ideas for those things, Randy?
I like to look at the pictures of boats and planes in the newspaper, and I like to look through books and magazines on models and how to make things.
Well, I have a book here I thought might interest you. I'd like to see what you think of it. There's an article here about making model houses. Since you're in the group that's decided to make a model of Daniel Boone's cabin, I thought you might like to look at it.
Uh-huh.
It's really quite easy to read. By appealing to his interests and showing appreciation for his abilities, I felt I'd taken an important step in helping Randy with his reading. Randy was only one member of the class. Others had different needs. There was Kathy. Early in the year, I had noticed Kathy's excessive shyness. Even though the other children liked her, she tended to stay somewhat apart. Kathy was new to our school this year. I tried to make her feel at home, but I hadn't been too successful. So I decided to see Kathy's mother after she was settled in her new home. I phoned to ask if she would come to school some afternoon. During her visit, I learned that the family had lived in 4 different parts of the country in the past 6 years. Her mother was concerned over Kathy's shyness because she wasn't that way at all when she was younger. In fact, her mother went on, even now, Kathy's full of fun when she's just with the family. This conversation helped me in an understanding of some of the possible reasons for Kathy's shyness. I tried to encourage Kathy to take a more active role in the group life around her. Books that they've been reading, and I want you to do something for me, would you?
Yes.
I wonder if you'd go around and find out when they'll be ready to make their book reports.
I have to go around
ask them when they're ready to give their book reports and write them all down?
Yes, that's right.
Laura,
Yes?
what's your book report going to be on?
Black Beauty. It's about a horse.
And when do you want to get it?
Next Monday. I like it so much I'm going to finish it over the weekend.
All right. What book are you going to report on, Philip?
Hand Sprinkler or the Silver Skates.
Bye, Mrs. Carlton. See you tomorrow.
Oh, Kathy, wait a second.
Yes?
Were there any Girl Scout troops in Portland?
Yes, but I didn't belong.
Do you think you might like to?
Well, maybe. Yes, I mean if they wanted me to. I don't know many of them very well.
I think they'd like to have you very much, Kathy. Why don't you think about it?
Okay. Goodbye, Mrs. Carlton.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mrs. Carlton.
Bye, boys. Oh, Edna,
Yes?
are you girls going to a scout meeting today?
Yes, at 3 o'clock.
Why don't you ask Kathy whether she'd like to join? You know, this is her first year here, and she mightn't know about your troop.
That's a good idea. Let's ask her, Nancy. Okay.
Bye. Of course, these problems aren't solved overnight. But children are resilient and respond to guidance. Raymond was another child who needed special attention. Even though he elected to join the group building the model home, he seemed unable to play a constructive role in the class. He never seemed really interested in what the others were doing.
I think you should, yeah.
Okay, I'll go get some.
You jerk.
Raymond! Why did you do that?
Who, me?
Alternately a smart aleck and a clown, Raymond was a very disturbing influence in the classroom. My talks with him hadn't resulted in any positive changes in his classroom behavior. On the playground, however, his behavior as team captain was quite different.
Johnny. Jack. Dick. Randy.
Okay,
Johnny. Okay, you guys, they're going to be up first. Steve, you'll pick.
Here Raymond showed real organizational ability and leadership. How could I help turn these qualities into classroom assets? I wondered if Raymond might be made responsible for the bulletin board, or perhaps I might appoint him as an assistant on our next field trip. I suddenly noticed Philip. Why, Philip, why aren't you playing baseball?
They've got the same number on each side already.
Oh, I'm sure you could fit in. Isn't there someone you could pair off with?
They don't want me to play with them. They don't think I'm any good.
What opportunity would there be for helping Philip to be accepted by the other boys? Later that week, such an opportunity came. Well, I guess there won't be any baseball this afternoon, will the boys?
Oh, shucks. And I brought my lucky mitt. Why can't these weathermen make up their minds? My father said he read in the paper that it was going to be sunny today.
Well, forecasting the weather isn't quite so easy as it seems.
Why not? They got all those maps and things. I brought my new mitt to school, and now I can't even use it. Well, maybe it'll clear up.
Philip, your father works at the weather station, doesn't he?
Yes, Mrs. Carlton.
I remember you telling me recently that you're interested in weather, too.
Yes.
Can you explain to the class what makes rain?
Well, let's see. If I only had some ice cubes and a half glass of water, I could show the class like my father showed me.
Oh, I think we can get those for you at the cafeteria. Dick, will you go?
All right, Mrs. Carlton. Well, rain is actually water that gets up into the sky by rising from the ground. Everywhere, water is going into the air all the time, from lakes, from rivers, and the ocean.
Why can't you see it?
Because it's there in the form of what is called vapor, which becomes part of the air and can't be seen. Air can hold just so much water vapor. The hotter the air gets, the more water vapor it can hold.
You mean there is water vapor right here in the air in this room?
Yes. And it feels like very moist air today, and that's important. The moister the air gets, the better the experiment works. Here are the ice cubes. Thanks. Now watch this closely. You notice the outside of the glass is dry. You can feel it. Now, I am going to place some ice cubes in it. Watch the outside of the glass. You see, it's getting wet. Now, why do you think that is?
Is the glass sweating?
No, glass can't sweat. But I'll tell you what's really happening. You see, there is moisture right here in the air of this room. Now, when the warm air of the room is chilled by the cold glass, the warm air just around the glass gives up some of its water vapor in the form of little drops of water. You can see these little droplets on the outside of the glass. As more droplets form there, they join together and begin to drip down the sides of the glass. That is actually rain. Now, rain outdoors is caused the same way. Water vapor rises into the air and moves around with the winds. When the water vapor strikes cold air, droplets form, and when they join together in drops big enough to fall, it starts to rain. Today, right over this town, the warm, moist clouds were blown into cold air, making it rain.
I think we all agree that each of us has gotten something from this fine explanation of the weather. Thank you very much, Philip. You know, that's one of the nice things about school. Right here, we can all get together and share some of the things we know and like. Each of us is better at some things than at others. Some of us may be specially good at drawing or sewing or baseball or explaining the weather. But each of us knows something or can do something that the rest of us would find worthwhile learning. The next day it was sunny again, and the ball game was in full swing. Philip was on one of the teams and came to bat. A teacher faces all sorts of problems. For example, what should be done when a child enters the classroom late, especially if it happens several days in a row? I decided something should be done, but I wasn't yet sure what. I asked Dorothy to see me after school that day. Actually, there was good reason for Dorothy's lateness. Her mother was away each night caring for her grandmother, who was very ill. Dorothy had the responsibility each morning of getting herself and her younger brother ready for school. Their father was unable to help much since he left very early for work, and the family couldn't get any other help. I decided to explore what kind of help the community could give to Dorothy's family faced with a problem of this sort. I couldn't help thinking how important it had been to find out the reason behind Dorothy's lateness. Had I first spoken any word of reprimand, Dorothy's sense of justice, her feeling of confidence in the adult world might have been impaired. Each child should have a chance for a reasonably wide range of expression in accordance with the child's interests and abilities. A girl like Edna, who had an unusual intellectual capacity, could find types of satisfaction that most children don't need. I tried to help Edna find records and books which would carry her further into the study of pioneer songs and dances than the others cared to go. Of course, there are always problems which a classroom teacher cannot solve alone and which require special attention. There was Peter, who stuttered. I had learned from the cumulative records that there had been an earlier referral of Peter to the school psychologist, who felt that there was a correlation between Peter's stutter and the fact that his mother was forced to spend so much time caring for his sister, who was a cripple. Over the years, Peter's stutter had varied in intensity. Peter's condition was getting worse again, and I decided to see about getting help for him. There was Evelyn, whose withdrawal from the life around her was so great that I simply couldn't reach her. I held a conference with Mr. Clark, the principal, about Evelyn, and we decided to encourage her mother to consult with the school psychologist. These are some of the children in my 5th grade class. Each child has his special needs and problems. For some children, the difficulties of growth can be very severe. As a classroom teacher, my most important job is to try to understand each child and guide his growth in accordance with his needs. This is the task as well as the challenge to all who teach.